Good afternoon, good weenuses. We are officially back with the Amazing Digital Circus's third episode, The Mystery of Mildenhall Manor, a nod to Haunted Mansion-esque horror that, in my opinion, even has a bit of a nod to Glitch's other iconic series, Murder Drones, at least stylistically. While this episode undoubtedly stands out for these elements, I of course am coming in to provide my specific feedback as someone who's a real-life therapist. There were a few standout moments that I felt really packed a punch from a mental health perspective, and I'd love to talk about them here. But before we get into all that, my name is Zorgnax, formerly known on here as Haley Z LMFT, and I am a licensed therapist in real life who absolutely loves making videos about mental health themes in indie animation. So if this is your first time here, great, welcome! And if you've been around the block here before, welcome back, and I love that you're here again. Now, let's get back to the actual video, shall we? I'll start by giving a short recap of this episode to start. The episode begins with our main characters standing around, practicing holding their breath, because honestly, what else would you do if you were trapped in a digital world in perpetuity? And then Kane tells, not asks, them about an adventure that they will take that day, which Zubul conveniently narrowly escapes. Good for them. From there on out, the episode flips between scenes with Kane and Zubul being engaged in therapeutic conversation, and scenes with the remainder of the gang exploring the creepy as fuck Mildenhall Manor. While Jax, Ragatha, and Gangle enjoy a quiet tea with a local ghost, it is Pomni and Kinger who get trapped in the scary route of the manor. However, all's well that ends well, and everyone is returned back to the circus in the end. Pretty simple, right?
Wrong!
I want to focus on three particular moments in this episode that actually hit hard from a mental health perspective. They are, number one, Zubul's comment about their body and its varying parts. 2, Kane's identity being tied up in his ability to administer adventures. And 3, Kinger's backstory with his wife and how it changed his perspective on life. Rhyme unintentional. I didn't even notice that in the script until now. First, let's start with Zubul's comment about their body. In a moment of rare vulnerability for them, Zubul says this to Kane.
I don't like myself. I hate this body. I hate all these stupid removable pieces. I just want to find something that feels good.
However, Kane, being typical Kane, simply remarks that Zubul can just switch out their body parts at any time. No biggie, here's a bin. Choose from the bin. As a therapist who works extensively with trans folks and people who are just generally trying to find their body confidence, this reminded me so much of similar conversations I've had with my clients, as well as people in my personal life. It's worth noting that, at least according to what I've been able to find online, Zubul is non-binary, and on top of having to deal with, being transformed into a completely different entity and being trapped in a digital world, they have some severe limitations as to how they can be in touch with and express their gender identity. To them, it's not just about having a set of parts that they can casually change out as needed, because what if the parts they have available to them simply don't represent them? It's not like they had a choice to come here, let alone take this very interesting form. Either way, I hope this is not the end of this conversation for Zubul, and I hope that we see some development that allows them to be their favorite and best version of themselves someday. Do any of y'all relate to Zubul? Let me know in the comments. Next, let's move on to something that Kane says during his interaction with Zubul, where he essentially says,
Oh, Zubul, making adventures is my art! It's all I exist to do, all I'm good at. And, what you're saying could imply that I'm bad at the only thing I'm good at, and that... that'd be...
This comment reminds me so much of conversations I have with people about not tying up your entire identity in your work. See, Kane, as much of a shit he is with what he puts the gang through, still seems to have some level of self-awareness about what he does, and this is arguably the first time we truly see him acknowledging his potential shortcomings and expressing some emotion around them. And as we can see, the circus as a whole starts to kind of glitch out, leading me to believe that the integrity of the circus is possibly tied entirely to Cain's ego. So what happens if Cain experiences ego death, especially as a result of an underling calling his methods into question? But when we extrapolate this conversation to real life, we do tend to see that people, especially in certain cultures, are conditioned to believe that their identities are heavily tied to their work. Whether they're accountants, doctors, vet receptionists, it really doesn't matter. So if we're no longer good at our work or stop doing it for whatever reason, then who are we? Who do we become if this is our life or worldview? I guess this is where I come in with some actual guidance for once, which here would be make sure you have an identity outside of what you do for quote unquote society. Have hobbies, engage in leisure, and focus on your relationships instead of just your productivity. I know this is particularly hard for us here in America, but please trust me when I say that you are so much more than what you can produce for this world. But that's a whole other video, y'all. Anyway, this kind of ties in perfectly to the final point for analysis I have today, and the one that people online seem to be talking about the most, which is Kinger's exchange with Pomni while they're on their adventure. As I mentioned previously, Kinger and Pomni get separated from the rest of the group and end up taking the scary route through Mildenhall Manor. In a series of creepy Magnus Archive-ish recordings, they learn about a very creepy creature, encounter said creepy creature, and get temporarily sent straight to hell. It's during a lull in this hell that Kinger tells the story of his wife feeling a sense of calm in darkness right before she was unfortunately sent to the cellar. This was a particularly touching moment, albeit extremely sad, obviously, given the loss of Kinger's wife. And he ends his story with this incredibly thoughtful and, in my opinion, true quotation.
Good memories can do a lot. Hold on to them. And cherish the people around you. You never know when they'll be gone. In this world, the worst thing you can do is make someone think they're not wanted or loved.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Remember when I talked in the previous section about focusing on your relationships? Well, as a therapist, I really do believe that our relationships will ultimately make our life worth living. And no, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, especially since that's not even what some people want in life, which is perfectly valid, by the way. I'm really talking about relationships in the general sense. I'm talking about all of them. Family, friends, partners, pets, community, random people we meet at the grocery store, and of course, even ourselves. Yes, people suck sometimes, and they can be crazy as hell, but cherish the good people in your life and the people around you that are decent. I promise you won't regret it. Anyways, you guys, thanks again for sticking around for this video. I always appreciate the incredibly thoughtful and insightful comments that people leave on my channel, and I really love talking with you guys up in these comments. So just know that I am totally here for the conversation, and I tend to pin my favorite comment on each video, so don't be surprised if your words are the next to be pinned. Take your moment in the sun. So please leave me your comments, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys for the next analysis. Bye.